Hey guys, today we are going to talk about how to get a national insurance number as an expat in the UK. Now, if you are going to live and work in the UK, you're going to need a national insurance number, but thankfully it's actually pretty simple. Now, first up, who can apply for a national insurance number? So these are people who live in the UK, have the right to work in the UK, are either working, looking for work, or have an offer to start working. So essentially, people in the UK on a visa, perhaps the Youth Mobility Scheme visa, you're eligible to have a national insurance number. If you're in the UK just as a tourist, then obviously not. To make things easier, you can actually start working as long as you have a valid visa that allows you to work in the UK. You can start your job before you get this national insurance number. You may have to prove that you have the right to work in the UK, but thankfully that is quite simple as well. Something to keep in mind as well is if you have a biometrics residence permit, you may actually already have a national insurance number on the card itself. So just double check on the back of your card. There may actually be a national insurance number printed on the card itself. If you don't have one printed on your card already, don't worry because this process is very simple, but you will need to apply for your own number, but you cannot do that until you are in the UK. Now, how long does this whole process take? Well, the application itself is very simple. It won't take you long, but to get approval and to get your final number back takes usually about 4 weeks. But thankfully, you don't have to wait to start a job before you get this number. So you can start work, and I will give you an example in a minute, but you just want to make sure that you apply for this as quickly as possible. The next step is to simply apply. So this is all done online, and it is pretty painless, but you are going to need documents like your passport, your biometrics residence permit card, and if applicable, your national identity card from an EU country. You can still apply for a national insurance number if you don't have these documents, but you may actually need to go into like an in-person appointment if you can't adequately prove your identity through the online application. Now, as part of the application and to prove your identity, you're gonna have to do a couple of things. So if you can, you'll need to take and upload a photo of yourself holding your passport and photos of other identity documents. So you can either use your smartphone, your iPhone, you can use a digital camera and upload the photos, whatever you need to do. You just need to upload these particular photos. And the application will explain how they want you to hold the documents or how they want things to be angled or how to be documented. You'll get all the instructions within the application. So on the UK Gov website, there'll be an Apply Now button. Once you click that button, it'll take you through sort of a mini quiz just to make sure that you have all the documents ready, that you know what to expect, and then you can apply for your national insurance number. It is pretty straightforward, but as with any UK government type application, I would just recommend take your time, stay focused, double check everything that you enter, and you'll be just fine. Now, after you apply, you'll receive an email confirmation with your application's reference number. Just make sure to keep this on hand. And you'll also be told if you need to provide any additional information or if they've had any issues. Typically, after you submit your application, like I mentioned earlier, it should take about 4 weeks until you get your national insurance number. Now, if you do receive a job offer before you get this national insurance number, you can still start work, but you may need to do a couple of extra steps just to make sure that you have proved that you're allowed to work in the UK, but also to show your new employer that you have submitted your national insurance application and you're just waiting for that number back. Now, how can you prove your right to work if you don't have that national insurance number? And thankfully, this is actually pretty simple too. So the UK Gov actually has a website and another little mini quiz that your employer or you can do to show that you are legally allowed to work. As with all my videos, the links that you'll need will be in the video description. So this particular one is called Prove Your Right to Work. So as part of this check, you need to provide one of the following: your biometric residence permit number, your biometric residence card number, or your passport or national identity card. You can then plug this into this UK Gov service and they'll tell you the types of jobs you're allowed to do and how long you can work in the UK for. Now, your biometric residence permit card does show that you are allowed to live and work in the UK. So typically, if you don't have a national insurance number yet, that is sometimes, most of the time, often, all your employer needs to prove that you have the right to work. However, if they feel that they need a little bit of more information, they can do this right to work check and they can see that you have the right to work in the UK. Just for example, a typical sequence of events is going to be something like you get your approval for your UK visa. You come to the UK, you arrive in the UK. Then submit your application for your national insurance number, since we know it can take about 4 weeks. Once you've submitted that, I would then get to looking for jobs, going to interviews, applying to as many jobs as you possibly can. Now, you may actually receive your number before you get a job offer, in which case, that's great. You don't have to worry about proving your right to work or anything. You will already have your number before you get a job offer. The other option, of course, is that you are offered a position before you get your number, in which case you can prove your right to work through the UK Gov website. You can provide your biometrics residence permit, which shows that you are allowed to live and work in the UK. And you could also provide evidence of your national insurance application so they know that you have submitted the application, you're just waiting to get your number back. And typically that's it, and you'll be good to start your new job. So what's next? Well, your national insurance number is pretty important, so make sure to save it somewhere that's obviously private but accessible for you. There's been lots of times where I've been asked my national insurance number when it comes to taxes or applications or anything like that. It's just helpful to be able to reference that number should you need it. But once you have your number, then you have it. You don't have to worry about doing this application again. If you've just started research into moving to the UK, or you're a new expat here already, make sure to check out this video where I share my top tips on how to get your first job in the UK. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.